Yesterday, the Supreme Court made a decision on transgender care, dealing a significant blow to the trans community with sweeping implications. While the 6-3 ruling is one of the court's highest-profile disputes this year, there are still some major cases left for the Supreme Court to decide before its term is over in just 2 weeks' time. So to break it all down in this week's Justice Gap, we're bringing in our 9 News legal expert, Whitney Traylor. Lots of folks are still talking about the decision yesterday, rightfully so, but
Yes.
we did want to take some time to highlight some of the other important cases. Can you just talk about a couple of those that are sticking out in your mind?
Some of the cases that are left still to decide, sure. Yeah, and there's about 20 cases left in the next, as you said, in the next couple of weeks that they have to decide, and that's about a third of the cases that were argued in this term. And so, of course, there's a few that we're looking, of the 20, there's a few that I think are really important. Of course, the birthright citizenship, that was the one in which President Trump tried to overturn the 14th Amendment with an executive order, so we're waiting on that. Every judge who's heard this has ruled against him. I suspect that'll be the case, but we're going to wait and see. Then there was an important case, Free Speech Coalition versus Paxton, which is out of Texas, and that's a law that limits minors' access to pornography online, and it says that they have to go and essentially register and verify their age beforehand. And you think most people would say, well, this shouldn't be an issue.
Makes sense to me.
Right, but there's a lot of folks, of course, the adult entertainment industry is frustrated, but there's a lot of folks saying this is a First Amendment violation and it's an overreach, and they're saying it will affect adults and adults trying to access things like Game of Thrones and that kind of thing. And then the third one is they've been trying to attack the Affordable Care Act ever since it was passed under Obama. And so here there's a challenge to folks who make the determination as to what free services insurance have to cover. And so they're saying that those folks who are making that decision under the Affordable Care Act were not constitutionally appointed. So if the court rules in favor of them, then we could see the Affordable Care Act being chipped away. So that's the starting. So those are the three that haven't been ruled on that I'm waiting to see in the next couple weeks.
Affects so many people, millions of folks still on Obamacare, so that's one that we definitely need to keep watching in 2 weeks' time. It's not a long time for them to hear, and make their rulings, and I'm curious about that because it kind of seems like they're in a crunch. You would consider them behind, right?
Yes.
Like on their term and everything they've had to hear.
Yeah.
Why are they going so slow?
Right. Well, and it's not necessarily that they're slow. I won't blame it on the court. I'm probably going to look at the executive branch and all the emergency appeals they filed. So when there's an emergency docket, that's called a shadow docket. And here, this administration, the Trump administration, in both the first term and the second term, had a plethora of these. And just to put some numbers in context, in the Bush and Obama years, 16 years, they only filed for emergency relief 8 times. It was granted 4 times. Trump, in his first term, he sought it 41 times just in his first time and won 28 of those. In his second term, so he's only been in 5 months, he's already filed 19 emergency appeals. He's won 10 of those. There's 7 still outstanding. So that has really backed up the court because they've had to address these emergency appeals.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Talk about some of the more consequential decisions that have already been issued this term that we maybe haven't, spoke about.
Right. So just going through these really quickly. And actually all of these, I went through the court's decisions, and I didn't necessarily do this on purpose, but I looked up, and these were all 9-0 decisions. So this is relevant because we have a divided country, we have a divided court, but here there's times that the court obviously comes together. So one that I think is really important is the Barnes versus Felix case, and that was one dealing with excessive force from the police. And so it's very hard to sue the police for excessive force. And so the standard that the courts had been using is the moment of threat. So in that immediate moment, did that officer feel objectively fearful of his life? And so now they said it's not the moment of threat, it's the totality of circumstances. So they've kind of broadened it, making it a little bit easier maybe to go after police on excessive force cases. Real quick, the Ames versus Ohio case. This was a reverse discrimination case. A white lady, straight lady, heterosexual, felt that she was being discriminated against and in favor of the homosexual employees. And the court said it applied a higher standard to the majority, and the Supreme Court said no. whether you're suing, if you're part of the majority class or a minority class, the standard is the same on these employment discrimination. Right, so that one was really interesting. So, and then of course TikTok, that was 9-0 and we're waiting on that. So, but that, we just got a 75-day extension from President Trump. So, but they upheld that ban.
Okay, we'll have to bring you back and talk about some of these things
Yes.
more in depth because you touched upon a lot of very important issues. As always, Whitney Traylor.
All right.
Thank you.